Good evening, everyone. How's everyone doing? It's another Thursday night, and it's time for another episode of Who Are We? And so we used to be called Who is SoCal, and then it became Who is Cali, but now it's Who Are We? Because we're all over the place, and we are all over the world, like as in when we are worldwide. But yeah, we're gonna have a lot of fun tonight because we have some really cool guests tonight. We have our dancers from various disciplines of dance. And we're going to learn more about them and all their life experiences and what made them become dancers. And so if you're watching live, hashtag live, and if you're watching the replay, hashtag replay and hashtag dancers. And if you love dance, show us your clapping emojis and heart emojis, right? So yes, let's go. Let's introduce our very first guest. And my gosh, like I'm so lucky to have her on the show. And yeah, I am just like really impressed with her work. And so she is a dancer and choreographer of Hawaiian hula, Filipino dance, and indigenous contemporary dance. And she attained her master's degree from the University of Hawai'i at Mānoa. And she conducts independent research and community-based research based on the intersections between Filipino dance and Polynesian dance. And she is actually going through some kind of shifting. And so after years of grueling dance work, she is now changing her profession into the creative healing arts. And so we're going to ask her what that means in a little bit. And so everybody, let's all welcome TONI Passion. Hi, Tony. How are you doing?
Hi, Mick. Hi, everybody. I'm doing good. Thank you.
It is so good to see you. I've been seeing you every now and then in the Filipino-American community events. Thank you so much for being on our show, and I am so excited to have you.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, and can you tell us a little bit about yourself? What do you do as a dancer?
Well, my main forms of dance right now that I do every day are Hawaiian hula and Filipino dance. I also do intuitive dance, ecstatic dance as well. So, and then yoga is also part of my practice. So, yeah, every day I'm doing that. I am organizing to create more classes. I moved to the Inland Empire recently and from LA, so I'm just branching out in this area.
That is so awesome. And you mentioned something about ecstatic dance. So we're going to find out what that means in a little bit, but I'm sure our next guest, the next guest that I'm going to call in, is just as ecstatic when it comes to dancing as you are. And so our next guest is, he was actually born and raised in Nueva Ecija in the Philippines, and he moved to the US when he was 14. And he is a graduate of UC Irvine with a BFA in dance performance. And after graduation, he performed as a freelance professional dancer in OC and LA. And he has founded his contemporary dance company called Dagdag Dance, and he specializes in ballet, jazz, modern, and contemporary dance. And he, according to him, he is also a singer-songwriter. And if you want to find out if that's true or not, hashtag just Tony, right? So our next guest is just Tony Dagdag. So everybody hashtag just Tony, and we're gonna find out if he really is a frustrated singer-songwriter. Hi,
everyone.
Hi, Jet. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. How are you guys? I'm good. I'm doing good. I'm sorry about the other sound that's like coming through. I'm at a studio. There's like rehearsals going on next door, so. But I hope you guys can hear me okay.
Yeah, move a little bit to your right. Yeah, there you go. You're not so off center now, but we'll put you at the center of everything. How's that?
Oh my gosh, I feel so special.
Yeah. because you are special. And tell us a little bit about your special focus on dance.
So my focus is mainly contemporary ballet and contemporary dance with influences from jazz and modern. I actually started dancing in college. I did not know that it was possible to major in dance. Coming from the Philippines, where Filipino parents, love to get their kids into the medical field. So I was trying that for a little bit, but then I found out about dancing and I really enjoyed it, and I just pursued it after that.
That is so awesome. And you're such an inspiration because you have your own dance company. I mean, who wouldn't want to have their own dance company if you're a dancer, right?
Yeah,
And
it's hard, but we make it work because we love to create and we love to share it to people. So.
yes, and the next guest that I'm going to call in, he is also a dance major. And my gosh, he is a Filipino Fulbright fellow. Can you believe that? And he is a fifth year PhD candidate in critical dance studies with a designated emphasis in Southeast Asian cultural dance. And most specifically, he focuses on Philippine cultural dance, like folk dance from the Philippines. And he's from UCR, University of California in Riverside, and his choreography weaves his passion for dance, music, storytelling, theater, and photography. And his works has been performed in countries like the USA, Thailand, Japan, Germany, and Spain. And oh my gosh, like, isn't that awesome? And so, everybody, let's call in Jemuel Barrera Garcia Jr. There, I said your whole name.
Thank you. Thank you. That's an homage to my father and my mother. So I'm definitely including them in my name. Hi everyone. Maayad-ayad niya adlaw, maayong aga, hapon, gabi, magandang araw po sa lahat. Good day to everyone. I'm Jumuel Jr. Barrera Garcia, and I'm from UC Riverside, currently a fifth year PhD candidate in critical dance studies. And I'm so grateful to be here with amazing dancers like Jed and Tony. So thank you for inviting me, Mick.
That is so awesome. And my gosh, I am so excited because everyone here is at like expert level, like in terms of dance. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, I can only do like the step ball change, But our next guest, and my gosh, like you guys like are so awesome. And I am so inspired because our next guest represents 20 plus years of dance education, community building, and self-empowerment. She is a professor at Grossmont and Mesa College, and she performs and creates work all over Southern California, ranging from award-winning repertoire to corporate flash mob entertainment. Wow, that is so awesome in itself. Just reading that, I'm just like, wow. And at 42 years young, Mel is currently training towards her dream of earning a qualifying spot at the Olympics. Can you believe it? So we're going to find out what that is about. And she is also she has also been in the Red Bull BC1 competition. And so we're just going to ask her like what those are all about and what that means for her. So everybody, let's all welcome Melissa Adao from San Diego. So everybody, hashtag Mel, M-E-L. Hi, Melissa. I think you're muted.
Hello, hey everybody. Hey Mick,
Hi.
thank you so much for having me back.
Welcome back after so many months, right?
Yes.
So everybody, Melissa was in our Break Dancers panel like several months ago. And thank you so much for coming back just before we turn 1 year old. Oh my gosh, we've been around for 1 year. Can you believe it?
Awesome. Congratulations on that.
Yes. And how is everything there in San Diego?
It's crazy. It's busy. We were just kind of talking with Jemuel about like the COVID situation now. It's a bit relaxed here. but we still do everything we can and do our part to stay safe and keep the community safe.
Yes, that is so awesome. And so the last person that I'm gonna call in, oh my gosh, is so exciting because I've known her since I was in grade school, like literally. And she is actually a pro-am Latin dance sport champion in the US and in Asia. And a lot of people have seen her all over the world. And she has competed with her longtime dance pro partner, Ronnie Steve Vergara, as Asia's champions in Hong Kong, Taiwan, and Malaysia. And she has been in Singapore, and she is a champion of so many different competitions when it comes to ballroom dancing and dance sport. And she has also competed in the World Blackpool in the UK single dance competition, which is supposedly the most prestigious of them all. And so everybody, let's all welcome Aya Talampas. Hashtag Aya, everybody. Hi, how are you doing?
Thank you so much, Mick, for gracing me and making me attend and be a part of this professional dancers that we have here in the US. Because I'm thinking that everybody is based in the United States, right?
Yes.
Yes, yeah. And it's great, you know, they all have, you know, like their professionalism in dance, which is such a great thing, you know, to be a part of. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes. And so just to get things started, right? Like I mean, aside from like the area of focus that, you know, area of dance that you focus on, what types of dance forms are your favorites or your most favorite aside from what you focus on? So, for example, Jet focuses on modern dance, right? You have modern dance, jazz and ballet experience, and Tony has hula and some Philippine dance experience. Aya has a Latin ballroom dance experience. Melissa has a hip hop, break dancing, and all kinds of dance, right? And Jamel has the folk dance experience. So, what other types of dance forms do you like?
I can go first.
Okay.
Yeah. So I believe it or not, I actually didn't start breaking until like 5 years ago. So for 20 years or for about 20 years, I've been mainly in the SoCal choreo scene, doing dance teams here and just strictly being a choreo dancer, meaning tell me what to learn and I'll kill it. And it was only until recently that I gained the confidence to start freestyling and then being comfortable going into ciphers. And that's a completely different mindset, even a different form. And for me at this moment, I really enjoy going in ciphers, being social, dancing with other people, and it's almost like a conversation. And it's like really different from like learning choreo, someone tell me what to do and then I'll repeat it, and then going into ciphers. So I really enjoy dancing in ciphers right now. It's been like, it's a game changer because now we get to express who we are rather than someone else's voice.
And hashtag this is 42, right?
This is 40.
Yes, I remember that. Like, I'm like totally using it. Hashtag this is whatever for me. I'm not going to say it.
Yes. I mean, you know, I just learned how to break at 37 years young. And so I've been really putting my message out there that you're never too old and it's never too late to learn a new skill, especially for breaking when we're like spinning on our head, doing crazy dynamic movements. It's still possible to learn in your late 30s.
Yes. And so, like anyone else, like, do you have like other dance forms that people haven't seen you do or any favorites out there?
I can jump in. Okay, go ahead, Jet. Go ahead.
I do love hip hop. I love watching it, although because I mainly am trained with contemporary and ballet, I somehow feel insecure because I'm a softer mover. So yeah, but I do enjoy hip hop a lot. I take classes here and there, and it's quite liberating actually to like twerk a little bit once in a while. You know what I mean? But you know, so yeah, I enjoy hip hop a lot and acrobatic stuff as well, because those are the things that I can do physically. But I love watching him, and whenever I get a chance to work with a dancer that is pretty, well trained in acrobatic, dancing, I am like, okay, do this, do that, okay, and then we're gonna present it. So that's, as a choreographer, I guess, even though I'm not able to execute different styles, very well, but if I see a dancer, I'll work with that dancer and then just like create something, and that's how collaboration, I guess, happens between me and the dancer. So yeah.
And Jem?
All right.
Jem,
Well, I was just about to jump in because it was ironic when Melissa said that she just started breaking a few years ago, right? But although I'm a folk dancer, I've been raised following, learning from the works of Francisca Reyes Aquino and Ramon Abusan, for example, amongst the many amazing dance researchers in the Philippines. In my college life, I was surrounded by a lot of hip-hop dancers. There's a lot of hip-hop dance community from where I came from. And shout out to West Crew from the university where I'm teaching and currently on leave right now. But I love watching hip hop as well, just like what Jet said. But on the side, this is something that people also see me do when I was in college and when I was in the US. So I do competitive ballroom. That's why I was so excited that Aya was here. It was like, that's someone who's really pro, but I'm just doing amateur competitive ballroom dancing. But something that I really like in terms of dance forms is contemporary dance. That's a really complex term in itself, but just the storytelling, the context, the conceptualization of contemporary dance and the freedom that you can have in that form. And I sometimes fuse it with folk dance, with what I know. And yeah, I really enjoy works that tell a story, basically. I think it's also something that that some Filipinos really enjoy to do. So yeah, I love all those dances.
About Toni?
I can really get down on some Zumba. So I actually I took up teaching Zumba like 2 months ago, pulled an all-nighter getting a class together, and just did it the next day and just fell in love with it. 8:30 class on Thursday, Zumba. And I always tell them this is the best way to start the day because it's dancing with so many different types of people and bodies, which has been something that I've really been joyful with these days, these months, this year, is dancing with all sorts of people. People who feel like they don't move all the time, people who feel like they move so much, all sorts of people, So yeah, Zumba has been very accessible for bringing in a wide range of people. Salsa dance, I love salsa. I can really just go off for hours just dancing salsa and listening to Mark Anthony. That has been my game changer this year. So yeah, salsa, Zumba, and anything where I can be in a room full of a whole bunch of different people. You just feed off the energy.
That is so awesome. And Aya?
Yeah, actually, dance is not really my first love. My first love is singing, as what you know, Mick. And what I before, when I used to audition, for Broadway musicals such as Miss Saigon and and the likes, I always fail dancing. It's like when what they would say is like, okay, like you make it in the singing part, but then come back for the dancing for the audition part, and I always failed it. And so for me, it's like, okay, I probably, it's not meant to dance. It's just not in me, it's all about the singing. But then singing and dancing always comes together, especially when you do shows, when you do a lot of musical numbers, you gotta learn how to dance. You gotta know it. And I'm like one of the slowest ones to pick it up. Like everybody's already like on that step and I'm still like way behind. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm the sore thumb in here, So, but then, my family and then I think in a singing group that I was a part of, we did a lot of hip hop. And so hip hop is like so free. There's no technique. And Jem actually, knows that dance sport is very technical. Like your foot has to land on a particular place. If it doesn't, it just destroys everything. And the more perfection you're achieving for dance sport, for especially for Latin dance, I don't do the standard version, but I do the Latin. And if you just miss that step, you're pretty much done, you know. And if, you know, you have your judges, like, you know, giving you scores, and they are very particular. And if they look at you and they see that your form is not the right way, that's points away from you. And so going back, you know, so I did some hip hop, but it's just not like, you know, a hip hop is very free, and it felt good, you know, because it didn't, you had, if you look awkward, it looks better. So it's kind of like something that it's an art, but at the same time it's free. And so ever since then, you know, when I was in singing group, you know, we did a lot of hip hops, and I felt like, oh my gosh, you know, I can actually do that. That was really cool, you know. And then eventually when things went by, you know, coming back and forth, you know, to the Philippines, because my family lived there. And my father, who just passed away in July, he's like one of the best dancers that I know. Like, he is so natural, you know, like when it comes to salsa, like what Tony, you know, mentioned, it's just there, you know, and like the music is in his body. And unfortunately, I don't have that. I mean, my skills actually are all learned. You know, I had to get, like, you know, really good professionals and teachers to teach me, and to just like for 5 hours, just like, you know, punishing me to do, like, you know, a samba step, like Jem, you know that, right? Like the samba walks and the rumba walks for like 2 hours just to be able to get the proper form. So yeah, so hip hop, I can say ballet when I was a little kid. Yeah, so that's it. But dance is actually really good, because if you do it, there's just something about it that actually expresses yourself, or whatever feelings you may have, you know, negative or good, you know, it just makes you feel good right after. And a great workout too.
That is so cool. I mean, you know, just like talking about dance, right? Like, doesn't that make you feel good already? I mean, just being able to talk about, like, you know, like that freedom you have, like in expressing through movement, right? And that is so, like, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm totally like having goosebumps, like, you know, like just hearing what everyone is saying. And yeah, just like going back to what Aya said, like, you know, your family, you know, they like singing and dancing, and your dad was a great dancer. So does anyone else like have someone that they looked up to? Was there any kind of mentor that pushed you to go like through this direction, like for everyone else? Melissa, you look
Yeah.
like you're ready.
Sure, I could start. There's a couple of people, or a couple different energies I acknowledge, and one is actually my breaking coach. So shout outs to Eddie Styles. He's also a hometown hero here in San Diego, and he's 43, and he also breaks. So I love talking to him because he's doing it, and he's winning, and he's repping hard in the scene, and he's doing really well. And, you know, I mean, it's one thing to be really good, but it's also another thing to be good in your 40s, because our, you know, our health, our hormones, our diet, it keeps having to change. And so as we get older, our lifestyle has to change to continue to accommodate for being up to par in this dance form. And we're like, you know, we're battling people who could be, I mean, again, we're like in our 40s, we're battling people who could be our children. So we have to like rep hard and rep well. So I look up to him, and he helps me have that mindset. And lastly, I look up to people who just love to dance, because it's, you know, one thing to train with people who are really, really good, but it's another thing to train with people who are hungry and who are just excited and who bring you that joy to dance. And I'd rather be around that kind of energy. I'm inspired by people who just want to learn and who love being a student, versus someone who's been in the game for a while, who's already sour about the culture, who's been there, done that, and they're more like bitter about what's happening versus excited, you know. So I think having that mindset of always being a student and being around hungry people keeps our journey and our training exciting. So those are the people, not anyone specific, but that kind of energy I'm inspired to be around.
Mm-hmm. And Jet?
It's funny that like actually dance, I feel like they make us look very young. I mean, I grew my hair out, so I look a little bit older in my my stash. But I noticed like I have teachers, right? Because I started dancing in college. I had teachers that I thought were students. I'm like, what? They're like 20 years older than I was. I was like back, during that time, I was like, you would be just so shocked. But I think it's that like the physical kind of aspect of it, like it kind of just makes you feel happy, feel more, I guess, like fulfilled in life. Life could get very stressful, and I think like dance is something. It's definitely an outlet for me to de-stress. So yeah, back to your question, Nick. Like I would say there, like in my family, that I'm kind of like the only artistic one. So, but I look up to them, obviously, for like the talents that they have. Maybe it's not artistically inclined, but I look up to my family for sure because they're the ones that they're my role models basically. But like when it comes to like the art side, actually, I grew up in church in Santa Ana, and I had a youth director that really like pushed me to like just pursue it, whether that was singing or dancing. And her name is Alpha. I don't know her last name now. I think she just got married, so I don't want to butcher her current last name, but we'll call her Alpha. So yeah, she really inspired me to just go for my dreams. And she actually did a lot of cultural folk and cultural Filipino dance for the youth. So I learned a lot. Obviously in the Philippines, we learned the tinikling and all that stuff. But during my years at church, growing up at church, we learned about singkil. We learned about this dance, sayaw sa bangka. What do you call that? Bangko. There's like a bench, and then we would dance on top of it, and then we'd put bench on top of each other to make it look more exciting and stuff like that. So, but anyway, yeah, I think she's one of definitely my role models growing up when it comes to like dancing or singing. And obviously, just like what Melissa mentioned, people that are just really hungry for it, people that are willing to dance. As someone who's an aspiring choreographer, director of a smaller company, I find that I definitely resonate more to dancers that are willing to work, that would like, hey, like I'm not doing anything right now, like that are vulnerable, that are, that are willing to let do you have any work for me? I think that to me, that says a lot about a dancer, that like, hey, she's willing to work, let's create something. Like, for example, this past year, obviously the whole world shut down. Dance studios closed down. I lost my job, like I went to a little depression. And then one of my dancers just like reached out, hey, what are you doing? A new way, there's like a new way of, I guess, like making dance happen now, which is virtually. So we were using Zoom to choreograph. So I would rent a studio for her, like in Santa Monica, and I'm living in Anaheim. So in a way, it was hard in the beginning because it's like a new skill. Like, how can you choreograph without the person being there? It just takes so much away of that like connection. And I think that's what I'm hungry for: connection, personal connection. With this whole pandemic stuff, it really affected me in a way, because I'm a type of person that I like being connected to people like in person. That's why I dance. To be in a studio, room full of passionate people who appreciate that like one thing, which is dance, right? Or whatever it is, singing or whatever. So yeah, so I look up to those people. This dancer the dancer that I'm talking about, like she's here dancing with me right now. They're rehearsing next door. And I just appreciate her so much. Like for actually like, she helped me to get through the pandemic, to really kind of like stay creative, so, but yeah, so yes.
So going to Tony, and going back to what Jet said, like dancing has helped him go through the pandemic, right? And so Tony is now going to creative healing arts. And so can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes. So this was really spurred very much so the past year, a little over a year now, with COVID, the pandemic, and just very much completely life change, very much as a mover. As Jet was mentioning, the in-person connection, it's very real, it's very potent, you know? So shifting into the online world and with the language of technology, it's a whole nother set of questions. So something that I had always felt for many years, even when I was studying in school in the dance departments, was the healing power of dance. I remember going into rehearsals early and just really putting in the work until tears, you know? There's just the way that I know it is that there are stories that live within our body, and really being having the opportunity and taking the time and the space to just tune inward and to locate where those stories are, breathing into those spaces. This is where the yoga practice has really been helping me as well, is to tune inward, to find these spaces within the body. As a person of culture, I've also received batok, and to do that, it's intuitive, where the placement of where it's going to be. It's significant. Everything has a meaning to it. So understanding that practice has also helped me in understanding how dance and movement can be very healing. And it really is that mind, body, spirit connection. You could be having the conversation about your shoulder, your right shoulder, and then we would be talking about our paternal side, our father, or something like that. This is how I experience it and understand it. And so this past year, I've also taken up the practice. I'm studying right now Lomi Lomi and Hawaiian healing practices, as well as the martial arts. So I'm learning through these practices that all of them very much are connected at the roots. The deeper you go down, we're all connected. And so that is how I work on translating and articulating the unity consciousness that I feel in dance, dancing with all sorts of people as well. I'm also very inspired by Hannah Halpern. Has anybody heard of her? Choreographer in her 90s, based in San Francisco, who's also healed herself and was also very sick. She has a lot of writing that's out. Hannah Halpern, based in San Francisco, and
Is
now
she a modern dancer?
I believe so, and I believe so. Yeah, based in San Francisco, and now opens up her home for healing dance and facilitating that. So these are the experiences and practices that, hey, I see it as if somebody has the capability to do it, then we do as well. You know, I don't feel outside of another. And I also feel that the practice of dance and movement, moving with another person, we feel that too. We feel that.
There's like that physical connection, right? And like going back to what you said about telling stories through movement and through our bodies, and so wanted to find out from Gemwell, how does your study of folk dance or Philippine cultural dance, um, how do those stories transcend, generations, like through movement? Like, what are you discovering through your studies?
Right. There's just so much that the body can offer, that movement can offer, in any dance forms, I would say. In folk dance, where I had the privilege to really like focus on and nuance the things that are happening in the field, I think there's a lot of radical potential that you can actually see, and and create conversations from when you look at folk dancers through generations. Right now, I'm looking at the negotiations that happen when folk dance companies, for example, collaborate with indigenous communities in the Philippines. At the present, there are a lot of webinars in the last few months that I've noticed where these conversations about appropriation, conversations about ethics, right, this idea of collaborating with, and especially with indigenous communities in the Philippines, has been heightened. And just because of this trending issue of some YouTube vloggers, right, who have just did some shortcuts in connecting with indigenous communities. And so then it has become apparent that there's a need really to see through that process, because sometimes it's not very pronounced. It's what we only see with folk dance companies are the staged productions, something that has already been perhaps shared by the community, that has been collaborated with from this folk dance company, from the community that they're working with, right? And so what we see on stage is already a finished process. It's a restaging, right? Or sometimes some people call it like taking inspiration from, right, an indigenous community. But it's also important to look at what happens in between, whose stake is goes further into what dance culture are they sharing on stage. Do the indigenous communities have a share, right, on what is being performed on stage? How far can, say, a folk dance company create choreographies? For example, most of the time what is being highlighted on stage are ritual dances. Rituals can sometimes take days, months, right? Say rice harvest ritual can take months, right? But in a stage, you're only given, say, 3 minutes to create a rice ritual performance. And so when you transfer it on stage, it's already different, right? Perhaps it's not already a ritual. Perhaps it's a presentation. Perhaps it's an educational platform. So these things, at the moment, are the things that I'm trying to see through, and hopefully I hope that my research would be able to help what has been sort of has been followed, at least in the context of Philippine educational system, where in physical education we're following Francisca Reyes Aquino dance notation since it has been created in the 1920s up to today. And I hope that my research would augment on that process and forward indigenous epistemologies, indigenous worldviews, Filipino worldviews, right? Filipino worldviews. That's why when I present myself, that I am a movement practitioner of Philippine dance, because I don't want people to just box. Sometimes the term folk dance can be very complicated. It can box a dancer into this. Oh, so you're a rural dancer, or a Maria Clara dancer, or an ethnic indigenous dancer, right? But it's more than that. There's so much more than what folk dance is in particular. So I call myself like someone who's researching on Philippine dance, because it encompasses this complex world of folk dance. But I also love to look at festival dances, which are mostly rooted on folk dances per se as well, and other dance forms that Filipinos practice, not just in the homeland, but also, more importantly, also in the diaspora, like people in the United States, for example, what they've been doing. Because although there might be a lot of similarities, there can also be a lot of differences that we can all learn from, and then we can diversify what, say, folk dance is for the next generation. Yeah.
And speaking of diaspora, right? Like a lot of us, when we were children, like from all over, right? Like, I mean, like our first introduction to Philippine dance or dance itself is, like joining, like in school, like dancing folk dances or cultural dances, or, like our parents asking us to dance at parties before you can get your birthday gift or something, or your Christmas gift or something like that, right? I mean, that's something that we've all experienced, right? And so going back to your childhood, like, were you always interested in dance, or did you ever want to dance in front of everybody? I mean, because that's like the beginning of it, right? Like they make you sing or dance or recite a poem in front of all of your relatives. Like, were you guys were you right at it and you're just like, okay, I'm gonna do this, or like, were you shy about it? What were you guys like? Let's start with Aya.
Okay, funny that you mentioned that, Mick, because when I was little, I mean, we were classmates. So I don't know if you remember in our folk dance when we were in grade school. I think it's Mrs. Kasakop, in our PE
Yeah, I remember her.
class. Do you remember her? Yeah. So she always picked me to do the traditional dancing. And one of my most favorite traditional dances is actually Singkil. And she always, yes, Jet, I love it, and when I was so little, I love the costume. I just love how it is. It's just a lot of like being a part of the movement, and it's like more of like being able to know where exactly your feet is going to land without looking. So that's one of my my most favorite, in folk dances. And so going back to your question, it's like, my dad, as usual, is always like, you sing, and even if I don't want to sing, he like really like, I have a captive audience already, like, just keep on singing. And then no one was listening because, they're all partying and drinking. And I'm going to be like, and then I just like, left the stage, and they're like, oh, what happened to that singing? I'm like, oh, well, you're not listening, on the microphone. I've been singing here, and and I was probably like 7 or 8 years old, and I've been singing here and no one is listening to me, so I'm walking out, drop mic, and then so they're like, okay, we're going to listen now. So it's more about the singing more than the dancing. And as a matter of fact, I just kind of like want to say something about what Melissa said, that it doesn't matter what age. I'm in my 40s. Okay, so I started winning competitions when I was in my mid 40s. So and how that happened. And as a matter of fact, the dance is actually like it's not my second love, so please don't hate, but I do love dancing. Okay, now I do. Before, because I always did not make it in auditions. It's always like, you fail, like you pass in singing, you fail in dancing. It's like, what did I do wrong? And so for me, dancing right now is like one of my most. Singing is not what I'm doing right now. I'm more into dancing. And I want to say something also about what Jet and Tony said, that it is very important to have a connection. And in dance sport, you have a partner. You rely on each other, and so if your partner and yourself, it's kind of like you're married, but only not being intimate. And I think Jem well can actually relate to that in dance sport. Like you have this relationship. My partner and I were like married, but we're not really. We're fighting. And you have to be on the same page, because in dance sport, it's a 50-50 situation. Like even if my partner Ronnie, he's like the champion, of the champion in Asia, and he's so good in dance sport. And I, in the beginning, when I first, was paired up with him, I was like, oh my God, I'm getting so insecure because he's so good, But then realizing that actually what makes you guys win is that the energy that you put into it, the heart, your soul, your passion, your love for it, and the goal of, we're gonna win, we're gonna take this by the horn, and we're just gonna make it happen, And so being age doesn't have anything to do with dancing. I mean, they say, oh, I'm old and frail, and my body like hurts. No, it's an excuse. Okay. So yes, Melissa, that's true. It's all in the head. And to me, I mean, I had like another, aside from dance sport competition, which is always on the floor, we have this thing called the showcase show dance. There's a lot of liftings and throwing, and my partner there is James. Like, he's a sweetheart, he's the love of my life too, and he always throws me in there, and I just love the feeling. And then he catches me, I was like, oh, okay, so I'm back up to earth, and then so it's just, like, the feeling is just different. I just love performing. I just love it. In the beginning, you get so scared because don't look at your competitors. And I think it was Jet who said it earlier, or was it Melissa or Jem, when they say that you compete with younger people now. Mm-hmm. There was a time when we did a competition, and they're like my kids, like the age of my kids are like 16, 17. They did not care, and they were so good, and I call them my kids. Okay, kids, all right, make mom and dad win, okay? So that way we can buy you an iPhone, So it's just like a beautiful thing. I mean, just being able to move, just to be able to, and not only move and win and make you feel like for me, it's like I never really realized that I had it in me the whole time, and it was my failure in the beginning. I never got into any audition because my dancing was awful. And so, but then later on, embracing it because of my father, thank God for my dad, pushing me. It's just a beautiful thing. And I just love it. As a matter of fact, I miss doing it because of COVID. All my partners are in the Philippines. I have partners here too, but it's kind of scary, when with the COVID situation, but it's just an amazing thing, having that gift of dance in a person is just like a great thing. It's a blessing.
And so what do you for Jet or Melissa, Jam or Tony, like what have you guys done like during the pandemic? Since dance is a very like if you're dancing with a partner, with a group, it's like you have to have some kind of contact or some kind of personal connection, right? Like I mean, you can dance solo, but it only goes so far after a while, right? I mean, because it's all about the community aspect of dancing, right? So what did you guys do? Like I know Jet, you've done like online virtual choreographing with partners. Like anyone else has done anything like different during the pandemic?
I can speak on that.
Melissa?
Yeah, I was actually gonna just kind of tag on what Jet did during the pandemic. So breaking, like with all the dances that we do, it's a social experience, and it's supposed to be meant to have like that face-to-face energy. And when that's missing, the whole energy for the dance and the motivation to even train for the dance is gone. But what I've kind of done is also now cipher and train with people on Zoom. And it's like a whole different ball game training with people on Zoom. And I think it's a mindset, because it's like, you had the people who are like discouraged and unfortunately not around others who can encourage them, and they just stopped training. And then you had others who were like, all right, I'm going to go in. And thankfully I was around the right people to encourage me to go in. And so like during the pandemic, I think that was like a 180 for me. I think I really was able to level up in my breaking during the pandemic, and learn and just train with people on Zoom. I took advantage of that because we were given the gift of time. So everyone is free, like no one's doing anything, so we can train together. And I was able to travel safely, and I was able to compete face to face once things started to open. But I think during the pandemic I was just ciphering, even though it was on Zoom. You just had to, it's that mindset. It's like, do you want to be sour about it, or do you want to be like, all right, this is a new thing, let's see what we can do? And so that's what happened. There was a learning curve though. Like Jeff was saying.
And speaking of learning curves, dancing in itself has a lot of challenges, right? Like first you have like that challenge, like if your parents or if your grandparents or relatives like weren't supportive, there's that thing, right? Like how do you move on from that? And physically there are a lot of challenges when it comes to dancing, and training and all of that stuff. And monetarily, it's not like you're earning a doctor's salary, right? I mean, so was there ever a time when you thought, you know what, I'm not going to do this, I'm going to be something else instead, like, and I'm just going to give up? Like, was there ever a time, and how did you bounce back from that? Like, Jet, you look like you're ready to answer.
Yes. So in 2019, my goal was, I started my dance company in 2017, but I had been already dancing a lot. In college, I was like, being a male dancer, we are a little bit more in demand because there's less of us. So I was dancing a lot. I got my butt into shape in ballet, right? Starting at 19. I'm now 30 years old, by the way. So starting ballet at 19, they whipped me up into shape, and I was like ready to go. And I was just going and going and going. And then but then I kind of like had enough with like directors that I just did not agree with, because some of them, I don't know, but some of them are very egotistical, and I don't do well with people that are very on that spectrum of having big ego. And also, I was also learning, I was maturing, I was also immature back then. So I decided to form my own dance company. So my goal was I want to produce a show. So that happened in 2019, and after that, I was burnt out. I'm like, I'm done. So I went to the Philippines for a month, and after in February 2020, and then after that, the world shut down. So in a way, I knew I needed to take a break, but the situation kind of like worked in my favor, because it kind of just like, okay, everyone needed a break. So yes, I had kind of like decided I'm going to partially to be semi-retired as a performer and focus more in teaching, choreographing, directing, and all that stuff. But now I really miss it a lot, so I'm getting back into it. Also, obviously, like watching my dancers, kind of like, my gosh, like I used to be able to do that like just a year ago, 2 years ago, but now I can barely do a pirouette. I can barely lift myself off of the floor. I mean, I still can do it. I'm like, but I needed that training. So yeah, I've definitely have had ups and downs where I've been. I'm sorry.
Okay. I thought I lost you. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So I definitely had moments where I'm just like, I'm gonna quit. But then somehow people that are around me, I'm blessed with people that are very like encouraging, people that are like just driven, and being someone who's who's learning how to be a leader. To me, it's helpful for me to be surrounded by people that actually believe in me, because that's something that I kind of like was struggling for the past year or two with all the doubts and all that stuff. And again, like I'm maturing. I'm that now that I turned 30, I felt like I'm in this new season where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna leave my 20s behind, learn from them, and see what the 30s will bring. And I'm really excited about it. Now I'm like on this like a new diet, the ballet diet, not the celery and peanut butter diet. I still eat rice because rice is life. Okay, I cannot live without rice. That's why I was like, but yeah, during the pandemic, I definitely was having sisig every other day. I was having like crispy pata, and I was like, my mom makes like this mean adobo. I'm like, it's crazy. It was so hard, but now I'm very much inspired, and like I just want to go again and like perform, choreograph, obviously like one step at a time, because I don't want to drive myself into like that area again where I'm like overwhelmed. But so now I have a sense of like of like managing my emotions, my schedule wisely, and all that stuff. So yeah, year for the 30s. Okay, that's it.
Hashtag this is 30. Right? And Toni, was there ever a time when you decided to give up, or was there ever a time, and how did you bounce back from that?
Well, the thing that comes to mind right now is, I guess the big thing that comes to mind is many years ago I got in an accident, and I had to wear a neck brace for a few weeks, and it kind of shook me up because I had always grown up as a mover, sports, all of this stuff. So it shook me up a bit, realizing how significant your neck is, the physicality of your neck. I am very much into the mechanics of the body. That's one of the reasons why, is because I really realized all the little bones in our body. It does so much, has a big impact. So after that experience, I got better, luckily, thankfully, and then I told myself that I would start teaching, whether I felt like I was ready or not, when I could take the neck brace off. So I did. I got in that accident in the Philippines during a family reunion, came back to the States and was like, all right, I'm going to go to the studio down the street and put my own class together, whether 2 people show up or 10, whatever. So from there, everywhere I went from there, I just focused hard on the academics and just shifted everything to dance and history and culture. And from there, I would actually say that was the time. I didn't realize it until now, but I would say that was the time that I really started linking dance and healing together, is coming back from that accident and just going for it, because you only live once, so whether you feel like you're ready or not, it's I think one of the great things about dance is getting out of your head and going into your body. So sometimes your head, it starts to say these things to kind of trick you out of doing what you're actually really here to do. So that's just, I hope that serves as some encouragement for people to just get up and move sometimes. Anyway, so from there, I just kept going. And whenever I have down moments, which sometimes happens, I'm a person, as we are, artists as well, and very empathic. So whenever those happen, I just keep going forward. I think of Martin Luther King Jr. and I'm just paraphrasing right now, but something along the lines of, even if you're tired or you can't get up anymore, just keep moving forward, even if you have to crawl. So that is the vibe, the mindset, the mentality of where I hope to be and keep myself at. And if I stray, I hope to come right back.
And so, like, being that we're all Filipinos or Filipino-Americans, how does that contribute to the dance form of your choice? So let's start with Jemuel, since you're already in the Philippine dance aspect, and I do have another question for you in addition to that one question. What made you go into academics? So there's a difference, between performing it and studying the performance of it, right?
Yes, for sure. Well, I think I'm gonna clarify first the first question, but I'll answer first the second question.
Yes.
It was just something that I told myself right before I graduated in college, that I was like, and this is gonna be a little bit funny, I'm like, if I'm gonna have this waistline when I graduate in college, I'm gonna be a dancer in a folk dance company. I'm gonna apply as a member of a folk dance company and gonna tour around the world. That was the big dream. But when I graduated, I did not achieve that waistline. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna be a teacher for now while I try to keep myself fit. So that was just like a small instance, and that decision right there. Because of course, I ended up being a teacher in a university in West Visayas State University, where I also had a lot of mentors in folk dance and I've been there teaching for 8 years before I flew to the United States to take up my PhD in critical dance studies at UC Riverside. That is because, and just to answer that question on the challenge that I face, when you come from humble beginnings, and you're experiencing poverty firsthand, and you live in the province per se, there's just very small opportunities for you to even go in a dance studio. And so the challenge really is to find those opportunities. I was like, I can't find them from where I was from back then. So I have to find them. That's why I went to Iloilo City. It's a big city where there's a lot more opportunities. And also search for grants like Fulbright, which luckily I got, to further myself, because in the Philippines we do not have a PhD program in dance at the moment. So just like running after the dream really of of getting that degree program. And the something that I was telling myself when I was in the program already was that I hope to come back to the Philippines and create that program so that people won't go anywhere else, and just be in the Philippines to take say a PhD program in dance or in physical education, majoring in dance if that's they wanted. So one is creating opportunities really, and two, finding opportunities, and two is creating opportunities. If you do not have them, I make it to the point to create them. That's why I learned from the communities I work with when I was in Iloilo City. They create opportunities, a typical like day when there's a lot of problems, people then just turn on a karaoke and sing. They create opportunities for themselves to redeem themselves, to feel good. And that's what I did, I think, in the past years, shifting from being a dancer per se of a folk dance company to being in the world of academics. But you know what? I'm so grateful that in UC Riverside, the PhD program, at least in UC Riverside, really caters to not just the academic side of things. We're trained to write about dance, but also dance. Right? I've been exposed to a lot of performances where I get to not just choreograph, but also join activities in and outside of the university to improve, to learn a lot more about my practice and also the practice that I share with the community. So, yeah, I think I have. Yeah.
That is so awesome, and we'll circle back with you in a little bit. But going to Melissa, what will be your advice to our younger generation of Filipino Americans?
Well, first and foremost, you're never too old and it's never too late to start. And when you hit 30, life gets better. So Jet, trust me, your life will get better. And when you hit your 40s, life will get even better. So if as long as you're surrounding yourself with the right people, and this is not just dance, it's with anything in your life. Surround yourself with encouraging people, with positive people who help you be the better version of yourself, not just in physical form, but even on social media. That really, we have to protect our energy. And so if you want to have the best life that you can and be a better version of yourself every day, try to be healthy with our intake and even what we're taking in on social media.
Oh my gosh, is that from you?
Yeah, no, I live right next to this on-ramp, and it's just, that's like every 5 minutes you hear, and then the alarms go off.
Oh my goodness.
I think that's her ride. Your ride left you.
Like a motorcycle, by the way.
I know, and your ride has come to pick you up, so we'll see you in a little bit. Thank you so much for being with us,
thank
Melissa.
you, everybody. It's been a treat, and thank you, Mick, for this opportunity.
Yes.
Much love and blessings.
Goodness. Yes, and we'll see you in the chats. And so, going back to my question, like, how does your being Filipino or Filipino-American lend itself to your dance form, your chosen dance form? Right. So let's go to Jet.
Okay. For me, I think a lot of the themes that I choreograph using the ballet technique, modern jazz, it's really my experience as a Filipino immigrant in America. The theme of like belonging, isolation, finding community. I find spirituality because I grew up at church. I grew up as a Protestant. So those basically are the things that I usually work with, and somehow it really resonates. Sometimes I would just like choreograph something, and somehow it'll turn into something that relates to my experience as a Filipino immigrant. So yeah, I think although it's not Filipino dance per se, but my experience as a Filipino immigrant in America, that translates to my dancing. And yeah, so I think that's my answer.
Yes, and Tony, since you do like different dance forms, right? You do hula and some Filipino dance and even martial arts intertwined all together, right? Like in creating like a different kind of dance forms. Like how does your being Filipino-American lend itself to that kind of dance form that you chose?
Yes. Well, I do feel that hula chose me when I was younger. That's just the surroundings that I was in. And I just went for it. I just joined in the class. It was in my elementary school, and I just joined in. So that was, it feels like in my life that was a given. I just walked in the room. And so I will say, and this is actually, it's a really interesting question because I spent many years trying to figure this one out, you know, but
And actually, yeah, I have a side note. Joel Jacinto. That's Joel Jacinto's question. Yeah, so like if you're out there, Joel Jacinto, like he's the founder of Kayamanan ng Lahi Dance Group.
Oh my
Hi.
God, that's great. Well, I will also say that there are many Filipinos that dance hula, and it's very great to. It feels good to connect with other Filipinos who also dance hula, because it feels like we understand an island connection. We understand, we understand what links us together through our cultural practices, and also as people, and also people of islands. So in stories or experiences where it feels like something was lost, you know, as a Filipino-American, where it feels lost or something is dying, I have felt it and experienced it in the hula practice, very fulfilled in the practice, in the chanting. And so I do feel that when I'm in the hula space, I feel a sense of energy and encouragement to also create this space in my practice dedicated to connecting with my Filipino ancestors in that depth of chant and movement and dance. And the dance, I mean, there's a whole nother set of questions as well. Language is also a part of that as well. But I would say, in a nutshell, they both have helped me understand who I am ancestrally and feel very confident in that from the inside.
That is so beautiful, right? And I'm sure a lot of us like, you know, feel that connection to our ancestry, whether it's in dance or in arts or learning about our history. And so going back to Aya, like how does your being Filipino-American contribute to your chosen dance form?
You know, and I think Gemwell can also speak, you know, also when it comes to dance sport, that there's not a lot of like Filipino competitors in the dance sport, because dance sport is actually from Europe. And then the American style was also adopted, of course, by the American. We have the European style and the American rhythm style. So for me, we're following the European version, wherein you have to have the straightest leg you could possibly have. And so it's hard because, first of all, when you do like when we did a competition in Blackpool, they're like really big, tall people, you know, like 5'8", you know, for women, 5'9", and then the men are like in their 6 feet, and we're all like tiny Filipinos, you know. So it's a challenge because you have to be seen. Everybody looks beautiful. Everybody looks great in their costume. You know, everybody dances the same exact way. It's just a little technique, you know, that they will just have to see, you know, with a keen eye in order for you to like rise above everybody else. And it's kind of hard. So this is very, very challenging. And for me, like, you know, as mentioned earlier with Melissa, the age is not an issue. Like for me, it's a challenge to be able to go ahead and keep on doing what I love, the training. It's painful. Like you mentioned earlier, like physical pain. I hit my head one time on the floor, when we were doing all the flips and all that. But, I just loved it. But then, we just worried, just make sure you have a CT scan, making sure everything is okay. So as a Filipino, it is very tough, to get into the world. But, the thing is, if you are winning, you're gaining that respect from people. In the beginning, they have this thing, like for me, I started when I was like, older. I wasn't trained in dance sport when I was 2 or 3. Like my mentors and my teachers, who are Russians, by the way. So imagine that, they only have a stick, and their voice, so, and they're trained since they were 2. They started dancing before they started walking. And I'm pretty sure everyone here knows what I'm talking about. But I started doing walking and running and having bad habits. But, if you just put your heart and soul into it, and you're winning, against all these big, huge people that I was been so scared of them, you gain that respect. And that respect is the one that actually makes you feel good. And not because you won. Not because, oh my God, I'm so good. No, because the moment you put that in your head, that, oh my God, I'm the best dancer in the world, that's when your downfall is going to be. So you still have to be level-headed. You still have to love your passion. You still have to embrace the fact that I still have a lot of things to learn. Despite people saying that, oh my God, you've been winning, you're so good. No, I mean, if it's going to get into your head, you're never going to learn anymore. And if that happens, then that's when you lose your passion for dance, because it gets to a portion of your life where you're like, I'm the best of everybody else. So, and that becomes a problem. So hoping, that especially in the dance sport, I'm hoping that, it will inspire, people, not only Filipinos, to actually do this. Doesn't matter what age, doesn't matter what height you have, doesn't matter, who's your teacher or who's your trainer. You may have the best trainer and the best teacher that you pay $500 for 45 minutes. And that is true, right, Jemuel? I mean, you've been in that too, in the training. So, it doesn't matter. It's your passion for it. It's your love for it. It's what you're learning from it. And so hoping, that this is like a good open mind, in other words, like inspiring people to be able to get into it too as well.
Yes. And speaking of inspiring people, well, like to continue the momentum of like Filipino-Americans, like putting the Philippines and Filipino-Americans on the map, like what do you think we should do to continue the momentum? Like we've seen, there's Apple the App, there's Arnel Pineda, there was Charisse, there's like all the, like Leo Salonga, like all these people, like a lot of like editors, in our Philam community, like people we know are winning awards and being recognized by the Emmys or the Tonys, right? I mean, what should we do as Filipino-Americans, like people like us, like to continue the momentum? So let's start with Jet, since you have to go in a few minutes.
Yes. First of all, thank you for that, Aya. That really resonates a lot. The advice that you shared, I needed to hear that. Thank you. I think for us, it's just keep creating content. Just keep going. Like what I said, I had moments where I just wanted to give up, but it seemed like the more content I create, the more stuff that I just put out there, the universe gonna get eventually the universe gonna see it. I'm never gonna be Lea Salonga, I'm never gonna be Arnel Pineda, or I'm never gonna be all those people, but I'm gonna be me. Be yourself. Be proud of your roots. Visiting back the Philippines last year for the first time, right, in 15 years that I was here, it really reconnected me to my roots. I really appreciate it. I have a new appreciation of life. Life is hard back home, and we have the privilege to be in this country. Regardless of the color of your skin, I know the political climate in this country right now is so very polarized, where everyone's divided by color, by sexuality, gender, and I'm not for it. I'm for people being together and seeing our characters. Us being Filipinos, we have to let that shine through, because Filipinos, we have good values. we're talented people. We are prideful in a way, but in a good way. So just keep being yourself. Put the work that you do out there. Whether you feel like it's not good enough, it is good enough, and then you're just gonna improve from there. So yeah, world peace. Just kidding.
World domination.
Yes.
And Tony or Jem, do you have anything to add to that?
I'll go.
Jem?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Was it me? Sorry.
Anyone can start. So Jem,
Okay. I think, sorry, I was tuning into another meeting right now. But I think the question was about what can we do to move Filipino or Filipino-American dancing forward, right? Two things. I think one is, I think sometimes there's a need to revisit our truths, how we understand our practice. Like, how do you understand folk dance, for example, at least in my case? Because sometimes, again, you can be boxed about your ideas about folk dance, but culture is dynamic, as so is dance is dynamic. There's a lot of changes that has happened over the years, right? And if you notice the present generation, this idea, say, for example, of social media being integrated, right, in the performance of folk dance per se, can already present something else that has not been perhaps been done before or has been focused in before. So visiting our truths, and number two, collaboration. I think there's a lot more that we can do if we do not just settle ourselves with folk dance practitioners from around us, but collaborate with people, say from those who are in dance sports or in hula or in contemporary dance. And I think and then we can create something else out of what we already know. So I think there's power in truth and there's power in collaboration. I think that's how we move forward. Yeah.
Yes. And there's certainly going to be a lot of collaborations, and inception is like what I said earlier has happened, right? And so yeah, so if you're watching, we're going to have a lot of collaborations. Mick Diaz Presents is collaborating with a number of our dancers here on the panel, and that's something to look out for probably early next year. Yeah. So and oh my gosh, this has been such a great panel. Thank you so much to our guest panelists. This is literally like the whole time I had goosebumps just listening to everyone in our panel. You guys are so awesome. And let's continue to keep doing the work that, we do. And more power to you guys. You guys are so awesome. And before we go, I just wanted to remind everybody that tomorrow we have another episode of Jam Sessions. And I wanted to invite everyone who's watching, especially if you're in SoCal, on Saturday, September 25th, Nick Diaz Presents will be celebrating its first year anniversary. And we have a party at the Noi Pits in downtown LA. And we're going to have so many performers from the Filipino-American community. We have vocalists, singers, musicians, jazz singers, rappers, R&B singers, pop singers, musical theater singers, magicians, comedians, and surprise guests. And we have raffles, and we'll be giving out the very first Mick Diaz Awards. So Mick Diaz Presents Awards to those who have been active in our community and have participated in our panels and jam sessions in the last year. Can you guys believe we've been doing this for 1 year? So thank you so much to everyone who has supported us, all of the followers, the viewers and attendees of our shows, and of course, all of the guest panelists, the performers, and also our sponsors and supporters, and those people who give us moral support too. So once again, thank you so much, Jet, Dagdag, Ayat Alampas, Jemuel Garcia, and Toni Passion. Thank you so much for being in our panel tonight. And we'll see you guys tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Don't forget. And thank you to those people who are watching in the Philippines and those who are tuning in to Kumu. Thank you so much. And good night, everyone. Good night.
Thank you, Mick. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye. See you
Thank
tomorrow.
Stay safe.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Come see us at Miss Diaz's first anniversary at North Beach, downtown LA on Saturday, September 25th at 6 p.m. See you there!
Hello, everybody. I just wanted to congratulate Mick for reaching a milestone in Mick Diaz Presents. And I also would like to invite everybody to join the celebration and a magnanimous event on September 25th, 2021 at Noi Pits, Los Angeles, to celebrate the men and women who have made a difference not only in the Filipino community, but also to the entire state of California. This is Dr. E.M. Vito Garcia. Congratulations, Mick.
Congratulations, Mick Diaz Presents. I'm Dr. Bernard Ellerin, one of the nominees for the Arts Advocacy Award. And congratulations on reaching your 1-year anniversary of Mick Diaz Presents. I look forward to seeing you all on Saturday, September 25th at Noi Pits, located in downtown LA. The event is from 6 p.m. to 12 p.m. Sige, tayo na. Ingat.